mental health's a big deal.
It is.
This is an album that really, really leans into it. Not in a positive way.
No, it doesn't. But I still believe that there's some value in the catharsis of what comes out of it if you can handle that.
So it's in my brain. Okay, here we go.
Can't unhear it.
This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum. This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum. This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum. This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum.
This is a show about some guys who just got back from Miami, Florida. Hello, Backwards Beats World. This is Carl Carter Fansfield.
This is Dan Woodard.
And him and I took a little weekend trip down to Miami.
We did.
For what?
We went down to see the GroundUP Music Festival, which is essentially hosted by Snarky Puppy.
One of our favorite bands.
Yes. And what an amazing weekend of like incredible musicianship and just like, I don't know, just such a fun vibe. Like everyone was super cool, except from one person. And, but the band was cool. It was such a small festival, maybe like 1,500 people or
less,
something.
Yeah. I think 15 was kind of like what they were gunning for. We think we put it at 11, maybe.
Yeah, and with the artists just walking around with the general population, easy to talk to, and it was so cool.
Yeah, a big part of GroundUP, if you look up the record label, I guess is what you'd call them, is they're big into education.
Yep.
Which is massive. And so every day started off with these kind of seminars or master classes or discussions. And so you'd roll up at 12:30 to the Miami North Beach band shell, and you'd be able to watch an incredible artist talk to you. Like, there's larger amounts of people in college courses in, big schools.
Right.
Than Eric Gales was speaking to us at.
That was incredible.
This is one of my favorite.
Yeah, and his masterclass is actually available online. You can literally watch it now.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, couldn't recommend it enough. Shout out to Michael League and all the boys and everybody who put so much work and effort. But we were talking about, we saw Bill Frisell, we saw John Schofield. Oh, my God.
Incredible.
Madison McFerrin, just to name a few. Eric Gales, as we've already mentioned. Just an incredible amount of talent and new talent we've never seen as well.
Yep. Yeah. No, it was an amazing weekend. We should probably debrief on it and maybe do some side content.
Agreed. Anyway, had a killer weekend. Our flight got derailed on Monday, so we spent most of the 10th in transit, hazy, to say the least.
Yeah.
And we're just coming to, but we're here to deliver a fun episode to you.
I think so.
I was excited that this album was here. I was a little surprised it was here this early.
Yeah, so on the list, we're at album 487. And this is the album.
Oh, this is the album Damaged by the band Black Flag.
Interesting that we're doing essentially two punk, at least punk adjacent and punk
in a row. Yeah, totally. And this one, this is a 1981 release. You're talking about 15 songs that only span, 35 minutes?
Yeah, in and out. Just go quick.
It's punk, man.
Yep.
It flies.
Yeah.
And, it has a real vibe to it. This is an album that's highly regarded as godfather to punk, or just straight up the first of its kind, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about this, Black Flag formed in 1976 in Hermosa Beach, California by Greg.
We are going to have this one. Is it Gin?
I've heard it both ways.
Me too.
And I don't know what is correct.
Great.
So
Greggy G.
All right, let's just do that. Sorry, Mr. G.
Kenny.
Yeah. And think about this, 1976 is so early in the punk scene that Nevermind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols comes out a year later.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, we have already exhausted
Right.
the Iggy Pop card at this point.
We have. And the band was originally called Panic. They changed their name in 1978 to Black Flag.
Doper name.
It is. And I think when you think about Black Flag and all the visual aesthetic that came with that band and the artwork that was actually created by Greg Ginn's brother, such cool artwork. And really, I don't know. It just shows this deeper layer. I don't know how familiar you are with some of the artwork from obviously the album covers, but the idea of behind this shiny veneer of domestic life, there's some really messed up stuff that goes on, and the artwork displays that perfectly. And it's hard to even think about Black Flag without thinking about the visuals that came with it.
Okay.
Kind of like the Misfits, the Misfits have.
So Misfits art, when you say Misfits, I see the logo per se.
Yep.
Immediately in my head.
Yep.
The same way you see Golden Arches, right?
Yep.
Black Flag never struck me that way, as I am not a kid who grew up with them per se. I always had the option to get to them.
Yeah.
But as I scrolled forward through this catalog, which I actually did this time around, I was like, cool, listen to this album a bunch. Let's see what comes next. I will agree. The art did kind of strike me the whole way down as the kind of album that, you want to stare at the front of to figure out. There's definitely some social commentary.
There is. And if you look at the collection of flyers that came out with for all their shows and that sort of stuff, it's actually somewhat. So when Carl and I played in a band together, I was kind of the flyer guy.
You've always been the marketing guy, man.
Yeah. But not to say that the stuff I put together in our flyers is even close to what this was doing, but it was that inspired me.
That's good to
Very
hear.
much so. Yeah. Even though we were a funk fusion band, but
doesn't matter. How do you get your name out there? What do you put behind the brand?
right. A couple other things probably worth talking about in the lineage of this band. So Greggy G.
Yeah, I love it.
I might not be able to do that, but he actually, as the band formed, they wanted to get signed. They struggled to do this. They were gaining popularity in spite of not having any albums. So he formed SST Records, which sort of gave them sort of that DIY vibe.
Very early independent record company.
Yeah. And it really helped them. Yeah. Oh, sorry, am I drifting?
Yes.
So basically allowed them to self-release. They went through a lot of member changes to get started, and eventually it,
I'd say it panned out.
yeah, it did. It did.
But that can't be, if you listen to how aggressive and fueled of energy this music is, having played in God knows how many acts at this point, especially young too, right? It's a lot of chemistry comes with that, right? And member changes are hard. When you have to change up your staff over and over again, people play things different ways. You're still building your identity. That's a lot more to overcome than it sounds like. This isn't simply rebuilding the Washington Commanders.
Right.
It's, you have really, when you move a member, you change the attitude of the band. You change the habits of the band, the communication of the band. You can wipe some drama. You can bring in new drama. It gets very, very... It's not... Because it's not paying the bills initially, especially in this genre, it's by choice. And so therefore you have to like or want to be there or see the value in it.
Yeah, these guys were living in poverty. They were not making any money off of this.
There's no question about that.
But there are some cool members to talk about. The first singer, Keith Morris.
Yep.
He recorded their debut EP, Nervous Breakdown. He eventually left, later forming the Circle Jerks.
Oh, he's Circle Jerks.
He's Circle Jerks.
That makes me happy that he like resurfaced.
Yeah. And then he had Ron Reyes. He came in. He sang on the Jealous Again EP, but then he quit abruptly during a performance.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's not good.
Right. Then,
You see Kid Rock did that over the weekend?
no, I didn't.
Fun sidetrack. It was, I think, like Bon Jovi's bar or something. They were celebrating his keyboard player's birthday. I saw this on social media while we were in the airport the other day, just stuck in transit midway. And Kid Rock gets on stage at this party and tries to get people to clap, and they won't clap. And he freaks out and leaves stage.
What a dick.
I know, right? Get rid of him. Next.
So Ron Reyes, he leaves. Des Cadena comes over, takes over vocals. He sang on the Six Pack EP, but then he moved over to rhythm guitar after that. And then they didn't have a break for a bit, and they tried to get this album released. They actually got signed to I think it was Unicorn Records.
Yep.
Which is a subset of MCA.
It was MCA via Unicorn.
Yep. And MCA is like, yeah, you're not really you don't like fit our brand.
Oh, no. I read about this.
Oh, yeah?
bro.
All right.
The like president or CEO, he was the one who has the big quote, which is in the Rolling Stone Top 500 album write-up.
Yep.
Which he says, this is anti-parent music. He said, I listen to it a lot, and all I've come to determine is there's nothing of like, good use here, which is like the most like I want to uppercut you in the face statement you could possibly put out. It's anti-parent.
Yeah, it's really kind of a stupid thing to say. Yeah.
Yeah. This was less of a we don't think you'll sell records, and more of like, this feels more personal. Like, I don't like your values.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely controversial.
I mean, I've listened to the album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, and yeah, so they decided over time, they're like, well, forget about it. We'll release it ourselves, which basically landed them in a lawsuit, which is why they didn't come out with another album for like 3 years, because they were contesting all of that.
Yeah, they got tied up for a long time.
Yeah. But we have to talk about the introduction of Henry Rollins.
That's the one.
Right? Because they were out in California. Henry Rollins is a DC guy.
Yeah.
Worked at Haagen-Dazs ice cream with, I think, Ian MacKay or Ian Mackay. I can't remember. I never know how to say his last name either. I think it's Mackay.
I think it's Mackay.
From Fugazi and Minor Threat fame. Because DC does have a pretty cool punk scene.
Yes, we do.
And basically, he came in, really defined a lot of the aesthetic of the band.
And would go on to do that for some time and become a personality of his own.
Yeah, for sure. And, he did have some studio experience before this.
Well, so what was their first band called in DC? State
I forget.
State of Emergency?
Yeah, State of Alert.
State of Alert.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, so he had an album under his belt. The studio was no stranger to him. He was like, I can come in and do this. And compared to like kind of the team they had rolled through before now, they were probably happy to find some leadership.
Yeah.
And Lord knows they were happy to find that like absolute ownership. The way it's hard to hear a band over him,
Yeah, he was definitely an intense individual. Is an intense individual.
I haven't listened to any of his like now work. Have you ever I guess he's like a radio host still.
Yeah, I mean, let's say sure, he's older and mellower, but just barely. Like he's not picking a fight with the crowd.
Yeah, he's probably not biting his tongue either.
Right. Yeah.
We should make a point after this one to like sit down, like just listen to like a live stream online of, how he speaks now.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. We talked about this briefly. I saw a performance from 2019 where he and Cyndi Lauper with essentially Black Flag do Rise Above.
Sick.
And he's definitely singing like he sings, but he's also as old as he is. So it's just not. You mellow out with age. Let's just say that.
Yes. I mean, when you're yelling, I assume he was still yelling.
Yeah. There's no real improvement in vocal technique at this point.
You mean we don't have like scale exercises to do to this?
No, I don't think he was doing any of that stuff.
Now, the big question is he going to cover True Colors?
That would be awesome.
Because that would be sick to hear a Henry Rollins Cyndi Lauper cover.
Yep.
In reverso.
It would. So, Henry is definitely very iconic. He was very intense on stage, was combative with the audience, oftentimes would be attacked by the audience, and he had no problems hitting back.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the album art, it's him punching a hole in a mirror.
Yep.
And by the way, about as good an album art as you could ask for exactly what you got content-wise in this album. It is a perfect lineup.
Yeah. So that's a bit on Henry. We'll probably get into Henry some more. We should talk about Greg Ginn.
Okay. Greggy G.
Greggy G. A little bit. Obviously, he was the founder of Black Flag. He's the only consistent member.
I think he still is. I saw on Spotify they have tour dates coming up.
Yeah.
It's literally led just by him at this point.
Yeah, he was definitely intense as well. But Black Flag evolves over time from what you hear here in this album to a pretty avant-garde style of music with, shockingly, they say free jazz influence. And I can hear that in some of the later stuff. It's not Ornette Coleman free jazz, but it's definitely...
It's more a focus on free than jazz.
Yeah.
But I will say, I mean, and foreshadowing, this guy's chops, actually. I really enjoyed his playing on this album throughout it.
Yeah. I have a couple things I want to talk to you about later on that. But
I can figure one of them right now.
But SST Records is his label, which also helped release some other prominent bands like Husker Du, Sonic Youth.
Sonic Youth's big, man.
Yeah, and the Minutemen.
Okay. So,
yeah.
This is a band that really had a foothold and started a thing.
They definitely did. So by the time we get to Damaged, the album we're talking about here, we have a lineup of Henry Rollins on lead vocals, Greg Ginn on guitar, Des Cadena on rhythm guitar.
Other guitar.
Yep. And Chuck Dukowski on bass.
Let's go. And was Robo on drums? I think it was.
Yes. Yep.
I think Robo was on drums.
Yep.
All right, so we're rolling a 5-piece.
That's great.
It sounds like the craziest 3-piece you've ever heard.
It does. I mean,
because it's that tight. It's like really. It's. I want to talk about it later, but I don't think there's a better time. I think now is the time. This album, to me, in a nutshell, before we get into the song by song we typically do, it's very the production on it is like really, really. It's like being in an acorn. It just feels like a moment, and you're there, and everybody's in sync with each other. There's not a lot of stimulus coming. There's not a lot of stereo noise coming across.
No.
It's very tight. If you told me this was a power trio, I would buy it.
Yeah.
And I just assume there's a few guitar overdubs.
Yep.
Am I wrong?
No, not really. I mean, when you're saying tight, you're saying production tight.
Production tight, and like there's not a ton of like. You could do this on an 8-track.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. 2 overhead, kick, snare, bass, guitar, vocal. There's no tambourines. There's an occasional hand clap.
Yep.
And yelling track of band. But really, there's no other instruments in this thing. You're not going to get any blends of like synthesizers coming in or like new cool guitar waves fighting the other thing, or hey, a rhythm track like this would be here. No, these guys were down to like, here's the message.
Yeah.
And we're going to put it in your damn face. I imagine this recording sounds like it sounded like in the room.
Yeah, I would agree. And even like no effects to speak of on the guitars, just overdrive, just
chunking away.
Yep.
And it's consistent as hell. It's like they never changed the snare. And he's like, this cymbal would sound better. Nope. This one right down the middle. Now there's a few production moments that are notable. Like literally the first song is different than the rest of them.
Yeah.
But and so is the last. But outside of that, it's a very tight recording. You could sit in a room and hear this whole thing performed live, actually, to the point of, I mean, honestly, no other album we've listened to so far.
Yeah, I would agree.
So kind of a cool thing they did there. And I think it was out of necessity, frankly.
I'm sure it was. They were not making any money to speak of. They were like living in squalor.
It sounds to me like getting them all in the same room at the same time to get this thing done was a challenge.
I think that's true, or it certainly becomes true.
There we go. We'll talk more about that after the break.
You push yourself hard. You grind. You don't complain. You take life's hits and you keep moving forward because that is what you do. That is what winners do. You work until your hands ache and until your back tightens up, until your mind starts to crack from the sheer weight of it all. And that's fine. That is how it's supposed to be. No one said this was going to be easy. But listen to me. Even a steel chain needs oil. Even a wrecking ball needs to be sharpened. And you need to recover. And that's why every night I take a bath. Not just any bath. I'm talking about a full soak. Hot water, not warm. Not lukewarm. Hot, like you're being reborn in the sacred fires of relaxation. I'm talking bubbles. Mountains of bubbles. You think you're above bubbles? You're wrong. Bubbles are the unsung warriors of self-care. Then you light the candles. Not 1, not 2, 9, maybe 12. And you let that flickering light glow and envelop the room like a soft, fragrant war cry. Lavender, sandalwood, maybe something called tranquil moonrise. I don't even know what that is, but my taint smells like victory. And the music. You put on Enya. That's right, Enya. Do you think you're too tough for Enya? Try telling that to Arnicle Flow when it lifts you to another plane of existence. Try looking yourself in the mirror after only time has healed your wounds and you don't even know you had them. You can't and you won't. And then, pour your Chardonnay. Take a sip and stare into the middle distance, and for once, just once, you breathe. You let it all go. Because self-care isn't weakness. Self-care is strategy. And if you don't take time to recharge, you're just another fool burning out before the battle's even begun.
Well, at least I've found a way to stop my bleeding. That ad will absolutely be one of the best we show.
Yeah, and very absorbent.
Yeah, I mean,
Multi-purpose.
You expect that from an all-organic, type of product.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so here we are, getting into the content here. We have this real, it's many songs, short songs album, but my God, the listen counts on these, Dan, fantastic.
Yeah, people like this album.
Yeah, I'd say. And I know that because we're opening on the song Rise Above with 36 million listens. And this is a great way to open an album.
It is. I mean, these aren't Ed Sheeran numbers, but given the time frame when this came out and the fact that it's very subversive culture.
Oh, totally.
Yep.
Yeah, this is not your parents' music, literally. Or if it is, they were cool as hell.
Right. Right.
But this was, as the record label would say, we don't agree with this.
Correct.
All right, so we get this like real upbeat, high splashy hi-hat, shake, digga, digga, digga,
Yeah, because I went straight to Steely Dan.
You did. And there's no shame in that.
There isn't. Even though the song is nothing like Bodhisattva, but
look, for all you Steely Dan fans out there, you should really give this album a listen.
At least the snare part at the beginning of Rise Above.
Indeed. But you had another thing that you really pointed out, which is super cool about this tune.
Well, it starts off with this descending riff, which is major
chromatic.
thirds. Yeah, chromatic major thirds.
Which is the jazziest thing you can do.
It is. And then basically what I think is cool about this is sometimes punk rock and heavy metal kind of get put into a bucket, and they're not the same music at all.
Not even remotely.
And what I was saying, as we're recapping some of the songs here, is punk rock's not afraid of some major chords.
Yes. And you'd think punk rock would be this minor, heavy thing.
And it's not, because actually in some songs there's actually celebration, but this song epitomizes it because it's sort of a minor riff, and then it goes into some majory feeling chords, and then
And you know how we're sure it's not afraid of celebration? Repeated choruses.
yep,
Rise above, rise above. They literally have people kind of chanting a line. It's like a war song. In
It
a
is-
good way.
yeah, well,
Pre-war.
yeah, well, it's a protest song for sure.
Indeed.
As a lot of these songs are. And you know, you talked about tightness, and I feel like the song's really well put together. The band's playing really well together. And punk rock's not necessarily known for like the best musicianship. And I'm not going to say that this is the best musicianship, but there's indications that like there's a solo in this, and it starts off with just full on like blues licks that turn into complete total chaos.
Yes. That's a gift.
It is. It's hard to play chaos, actually.
It's really hard to be able to play blues licks than chaos.
Yeah. When I was much younger, I would play in some bands where we might dabble in punk. And I had a friend who acquired a guitar, and he's like, well, I can't really play, but I'm sure I can play punk. And he couldn't.
Yeah, joke's on you, bro.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit harder than you think. It's not the music we just saw in Miami, not even by a stretch.
Yeah.
But he was trying to like time to do a solo, and he's gonna like, I'll just go, bang on the strings like they do. I'm like, yeah, it somehow is bad chaos.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to do this on the opening song. I'm going to actually go back to the Steely Dan reference.
Okay.
One of the comments about Steely Dan was that was made on, remember the Making of Asia
Yep.
documentary? I can't remember who made this comment, but it was to the effect of they became perfect and then had the ability to fall back and feel funky.
Yeah.
That's how punk music is. Real good punk. These players, too, by the way, never sleep on them. It's not sloppy because they're not good players. It's sloppy because they're really good players losing their minds over something way bigger than the music at the time, which is generally, I imagine, influenced heavily by the room's energy. Like, the weird flammage and chaos you hear in really, really good punk music is borderline intentional.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't have the chops to execute it perfectly in a studio setting. It's that sitting down and hammering away and paying that much money to do it's a waste of time. They're like going in, drinking 6 beers, going, we're going to do 2 takes of this, and whatever happens, happens. And that goes on the album. I don't give a F if you care about that.
Correct.
And that's punk. To a T. And you hear that throughout this album. There's the musicianship. These guys are killing. Every one of them is moving fast and hitting hard, and there ain't no metronome to be found. Like, they're recording these tracks live. I would bet all of it on.
Yeah, there's no click track. One funny side thing, I don't know if you ever saw this, is a documentary by about Dead Kennedys making, I think it's In God We Trust, right? So the EP, after they lost their first drummer and got D.H. Pellegro, and so that's probably their fastest album. And I can't remember what song they're playing. It might be Nazi Punks Fuck Off or something like that.
That's probably the one.
And Jello counts them in, and they just start going, and he goes, wait, too slow. I'm like, all right, how can you tell? And they just like, faster. And yes, it is certainly faster, but he's paying attention, you know.
There's no lack of musicianship here. Just want to get that out of the way, because there's a lot of tracks to talk about, and though they're not always perfectly on, there are some massive like time swings that happen throughout the course of this album. It's really incredible to listen to, having both of us worked in studios as long as we have, and probably half our listener base at this point being musicians. These guys are like really hammering away at something they've rehearsed. They feel very passionate about that structure, and they follow each other. Mm-hmm. And that's what we call great communication in music.
I agree.
All right, back to the content of Rise Above. Mm-hmm. Protest song, major chordage, chanting part. We've checked all the boxes.
We have.
All right.
It might be good to bring this song back, in 2025.
Yeah, we might be there, guys. Ring the bells. All right, moving on. Song number 2, Spray Paint, an epic.
So what I like about this here is the song just starts off super abrupt. 34 seconds, right? There's an opening chord and then it just goes.
That's right.
And I think it is that opening chord kind of makes me feel like I think it's "Ill in the Head" by Dead Kennedys, which came out, which is off of "Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables." This song is nothing like "Ill in the Head." That's a really cool song. I don't know if you know it. It has this all bunch of really quirky stuff. But when I heard that, I'm like, I didn't make that connection until I've been like marinating in this album for the past week.
Yeah.
But the thing. Let me ask you: have you ever been to like a punk show?
Yes, I've been to a real punk show.
Yeah. So I just can't even imagine with this song. It's 34 seconds, but like imagine a room full of like sweaty kids, like recovering from the last song, and this thing goes, and the room just like loses its mind.
Yes, exactly. This song has no start and honestly, real no finish.
Yeah.
It's just go,
Right.
and then boom, you're off to it.
Yep. And spray paint the walls. That's the
melee.
content. That's it.
It's a perfect punk song.
Yeah.
It's top 3 on the album for me. And as you said, the duration, 30. Spotify says 33. You say 34. I'm going to call it 33.5.
That's probably
And that's
it.
a great way to sit on this tune.
Yep.
Wow, we're blowing through this. Next.
6-pack.
I fucking love this song.
What's that?
I love the celebratory nature of it. It's a top 3 of mine, and the messaging of it to me is still young, and that's what I like about it. This is foreshadowing. Mm-hmm. This album gets really dark really quick.
It does.
This is a song you could argue is about addiction, boredom. I don't want to do what you want me to do. I will go back to boredom.
Yeah.
This seems to be a theme early in the album is because I have nothing better to do seems to be a rationale or a justification for anything. Apathy.
Yeah.
As a punk theme.
Yep. I agree. I actually love the growly bass intro to this.
Oh, the music's fantastic.
Yeah. Again, this is another one. Once that bass line comes in, I could just see a bunch of people stewing, getting ready to like lose their minds when the song finally kicks in.
Yeah, and you write a song about a 6-pack of beer, and you have chanting parts to it in a live concert venue. You're going to get response every time.
Yeah.
It kind of demands it, frankly. Anything else on this one?
No. Again, not a lot here. I have more to say on some other tracks, but
Fair enough. And that's how this goes. I mean, this is why you have these short segments of the punk saga.
yeah, we go long on stuff sometimes, so we'll
Yeah.
save it for when
We're
we need
checking each other. We're like, hey, man, this is going fast. All right, cool. What I see.
to. Another awesome bass intro.
Well, so these crunchy bass intros are so awesome. The like picking style, throaty. You know how hard it was in 80 to get like good bass distortion going? It was like really not a thing.
Yeah, I just think the volume's just cranked, the gain's cranked. and-
Precisely, because this is not like a pedaled out type of distortion. This is like I'm overloading the speaker type of distortion.
Yeah, and I think if you were to, because it's recorded analog, you don't have to worry about digital clipping. So it maybe just be clipping, but in a safe way.
Nothing you can tamp down.
Right.
It's throaty.
Yeah.
Like you can hear like the speaker cab in this one.
Yeah.
And once I said, like, again, I recognize the 5-piece nature. It sounds like a power trio. The bass line reminds me of like a Presence of the United States bass line.
Okay.
Oh, what is it? I've been elected to rock your asses till midnight. Kick Out the Jams, I think was the tune.
Okay.
But, there are several bands that... So I was born in 84, right?
Okay.
So I missed the 80, 81 wave for this. And I probably didn't perk up to liking or seeking like hard rocking music till I started drumming.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started drumming, I was like, all right, now I want to cook. And the bands that influenced me at the time that I could grab easily. I'm the eldest of my tribe, and that matters because we talked about this in Florida. You know, I was jealous of my friends who had big brothers and big sisters because they always had the in. You know, they had the person to show them the music. I had to rely on the friend who had the big brother or big sister to find it. And whatever I handed down, my siblings listened to some extent, and then they break off, right? So I was really grateful for the gems I did have. But when I hear playing like this, it reminded me of the few really hard things I had access to. One of them was a band called The Urge.
Okay.
Which I'm a huge fan of. Not Urge Overkill, also cool band, but not The Urge.
Different band.
Also out of California.
Yeah.
And these guys were just, their early stuff was so heavily influenced. The more I listen to this album, the more I'm reminded of them. The really early Goldfinger Pocket.
Yeah.
Before they became like the Superman ska from Tony.
Yep.
What's his face? The skateboarder. The
Tony
video
Hawk.
game. Tony Hawk's video game. Thank
Yep.
you. Everybody caught that song there, right?
Yeah.
But before that, you had this really great Goldfinger band. A lot of the ska music I listened to. You start to hear it here.
Yeah.
Growly, California, full of emotion, driven, high tempo, and it was so reckless and so beautiful. This is where the whole album really kicks into gear for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Tony Hawk, and, you know, it's kind of hard to not talk about, you know, skateboard culture a bit when you talk about punk.
Sure.
Music,
I mean,
right? They're hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. This to me, I actually, one thing I like about this song is there's a very off-kilter groove that comes into this song, and it bounces between this very like sort of like stompy off-kilter thing with a fairly standard punk progression, and it goes back to this thing. And you talk about performing together. It's not easy to keep going back and forth, you know, between those grooves, and they're hitting it, you know, really
They're
well.
hitting it hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, you hear all the now washed out tricks of pop punk in this, right?
Yeah.
The use of tom-toms and, you know, kind of like moving across your kit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, all right, cool. Like we're going to kind of dynamically control and then dive into like louder sections.
Yep.
There's lyrical stuff here too that I really wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
This is some of my favorite lines that Henry threw out, and it foreshadows this album because this album has an arc.
Okay.
It's about time to talk about it.
Let's do it.
And we have not talked about this, so
I'm ready.
throwing it in your face.
All right.
This album starts off.
So punk of you.
Oh, I know. Look, you man. This album starts off very celebratory group punk.
Yep.
We're doing this. We feel this way.
We live in a house. We drink all day.
We drink all day. You know, F the guys, F the man, and into finally F the cops, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
And then it takes a turn. And it just goes more internal and more internal and more internal into personal mania.
Yeah.
And like hardcore fucked up journaling. There's I'm serious, right?
No, you're right.
And I mean, it ends real bad. Like if you just the person,
It does.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm laughing, but it's bad.
I mean, just call it what it is.
Yeah.
And there's an arc here. I don't think it was intentional, but I do think I think it was semi-intentional.
Yeah.
I think it's a color, right? Like we're going from like various shades of gray into like horrid shades of black. Like the entire time down, 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 down. Depression is the one word I think I could use throughout the course of it. In fact, there's a song literally called it.
Yep.
And that's not even the worst of it. That's like halfway through.
Yeah.
So we're watching this character, this spirit
Yep.
is the word I'll choose, kind of devolve. And so here is where things turn for me. I want to read this lyric real quick because I think it's meaningful. So in what I see, and so far, it's been very standard issue. Like, I don't care. I don't give a F. Well, I will break this. I'll drink this. And now you start to really get this. This feeling haunts me. Behind these eyes, the shell seems so empty. Though I wonder if anything lives inside. I want to live. That statement, I want to live or I want to die, throughout the course of the rest of the album will pop up often
Yeah.
and be a conversation across the boards. And that's incredibly important. We live in a world that's highly, highly sensitive to mental health. We live in a world where you did not say these kind of things. That was some like red mark type stuff.
But that was the outlet. Like that's who they were singing to, right? They were singing to a group of individuals who did not feel right with the world. Mostly teenage, young adult who may be disenfranchised, maybe upset with the programming they received from their parents or lack thereof, and all of that. So the fact that they're addressing this and in a way that allows people to just get it out of their system. Like I remember like early on when I was first exposed to punk before, like you're born in 84. 84 was the beginning of my sort of punk awakening. That's when I was starting to get exposed to 84, 85, 86.
That was my physical awakening.
Yeah. That's when I was getting into this music and enjoying that. And pretty young, I enjoyed it. I had a pretty good young life. So even though I enjoyed this music and I liked a lot of what I was getting out of it, it wasn't necessarily for me from that perspective, but I understood it. And my friends who enjoyed it had potentially some tougher lives than I had for sure. And it really spoke to them and it gave them that outlet and that safe space to just be fucking pissed.
Sure.
And deal with that.
And this is aimed at young people.
Yeah.
I mean, literally one of the songs ends with like, hey, can you find the key to your mother's liquor cabinet?
Yeah.
So let's not be mistaken. No one's preaching to like 28-year-olds here.
No.
This is for the youth, which is why I think that anti-parent label they put on it is so crucial.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
It is, but it's also like perfect. Like you kind of like got your award too at the same point, right?
But I mean, think about when you're first turning, you're 18, 19, 20, right? We're all programmed by our parents. That's how we're raised. Not for better or for worse. The best parents, they put on you to the best of their ability or worst of their ability.
Or anywhere in between.
Or anywhere in between, right? That stamp. And then as you start to actually evolve your own brain, right? You take hopefully the good. Sometimes you take the bad, unfortunately. But you take and you cherry pick and you become your own person at this time.
Yep.
And it's a very difficult time of life for many people. Really for everybody, but some people worse than others.
Your parents went through this too.
Of course they did, right? And me as a parent, I was literally talking to my son the other day about he was expressing some stuff to me, and I'm like, hey, this is not an easy time. And I said, you need to unlearn everything Mom and I taught you, right?
That's as fair a statement as I guess you could.
Right. Hopefully he will
say.
take all of the good things that we tried to give and that we gave with all the love we gave and all that sort of stuff. But you just have to internalize that and make it your own thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to put these people on any high pedestal, but if you think about it, very often, a lot of the people that I grew up with who were either punk or goth or that sort of stuff were actually some of the smartest friggin' people that you'll know.
Oh, sure. My college roommate was literally that. And, he's dead now.
Right. Because sometimes that's a curse.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Way too smart for his own good, per se.
So yeah, the lyrical content that comes into here is not surprising in any way, shape, or form.
No, and look, rebellion talk and kid talk is one thing. Yelling about, I hate myself, I want to die, literally. In this album, as sensitive as we want to be today in the conversation, this was thrown around pretty casually for a while.
It was, and yes. So I'm going to say something, and I'm super sensitive to this topic, so don't take me wrong. But there's also sometimes a use case for people who just need to get smacked in the mouth and say, knock that shit off.
Sure.
Right? There's real, actual depression, which is devastating, and an illness that needs to be taken super seriously. And there's somebody who's just not getting their shit together.
Yeah.
And there's a difference there. And now
We call you emo.
Yeah, yeah. But and so there's some recklessness here by not knowing the difference. But I think when you get later in this album, I think he actually knows the difference.
No, it's pretty damn clear.
Yeah.
And furthermore, I would like to think this album opened the door to that being a really blatant use for the art.
Yeah.
Because you could Picasso yourself all day.
Right.
And he's just screaming the obvious out loud. Like repeatedly, eventually. And that is big. Not because it's artsy. It's one of my actual complaints about this album is why I wouldn't choose to listen on a given day is like, hey, I'm going to want something more chewy to listen to from a vocalist. Because you're already yelling at me the entire album, but also you're yelling repeated, really sad, depressive statements at me. There's very few times I feel this.
Right.
As a human, call me privileged, but like,
Sure.
Or just don't call me miserable.
Right.
One way or not the other. It does not mean I don't appreciate it, and I haven't had moments where this would be cathartic, or I just can't understand. I like the idea of it, but it's blatant. It's not masked. There is no like metaphor to dig through. No, it is just I am depressed. I hate me. I want to die. Essentially. And so be ready for that on the second like push of this album here.
Yeah.
But not until we get into the wonderful song called TV Party.
TV Party.
And thank God it came when it did.
Well, you need it after that song.
Indeed.
Yeah. Oddly enough, we talked about this song in the Stooges for a split second.
Did we?
We did, just for like a split second, because it happens to be on the Repo Man soundtrack.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember this now.
Yep.
Dude, TV Party. If you wanted the pop song of this album, TV Party.
This is it, for sure.
It's
a
also
party
just a fantastic standalone punk song.
It is. And I asked you about this band before, if you ever knew the band Murphy's Law.
I've only heard of them.
So even Murphy's Law has a song called Crucial Barbecue. And I always put these songs together in a sort of a punk party playlist. It's the same idea, right? It's like, we're going to have a TV party. They're getting some burgers for the grill. Like it's this whole thing.
You know what it reminds me of now? There's a band, what are they called? They have a song called Sports. What are they? The Naked something?
Oh, I think I know this song.
It fits in we make the trifecta with them.
Yep.
Oh, we'll get it in the liner notes, y'all.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to sit here and pull it up on Spotify all of a sudden.
No, that'd be boring.
That would super. But nonetheless, check it out. TV Party, super fun.
It's the most, I'll put in air quotes, singing
Anybody does.
that anyone does on this album. Because let's be honest, Henry Rollins doesn't sing.
No, not a lick.
Right? He screams. He talks with a growly voice.
And then he screams again.
And he screams again. Except in this song, there's an attempt at singing.
I'm assuming like the bass player had the baritone that actually had like tonality.
Yeah, because when they're singing together, there's one person who's pretty much on pitch and everybody else is just shouting, which is fine.
Hey, so be it. This song has got a sweet 15 million listens too, so it's third hottest hotbed on the entire album with the exception of Six Pack, my jam.
Yep.
So Rise Above, Six Pack, and TV Party seem to be the consumables because they're very approachable.
They are. So let me ask you this. So obviously this is TV Party. So 2 questions. 1, do people even have TV parties anymore?
I didn't know a TV party was a thing, Daniel.
It really kind of was. You would just go and hang out and watch the tube as sort of an activity. Because you had to wait for shows. So if you didn't even have, and at this point, maybe you had a VCR.
I had a TV party in college.
There you go.
What we would do is Reno 911 would come on at a very specific time on Wednesday nights.
Yep.
And our what we do, we were freshmen, so we would get our older friend to buy us Steel Reserve 40s, and we would put on one of those 60-minute Power Hour CDs, and we would drink as much of our Steel Reserve. So at 40s, you'll get through 3/4 of your whole stash, right,
Okay.
at 60 ounces by the end of the CD. So the CD has a 56-minute song or 56 seconds part of the song you like, and then for a few seconds it would stop.
Yep.
And everybody take one shot of their Steel Reserve 8.1 whatever liquor, and then we just do that for an hour. And then we'd all drink the rest of our Steel Reserves and watch Reno and all be hammered. And that was on Wednesday night at Salisbury University.
Nice. That's very different than a Netflix watch party that you can do with people from all over the world.
Oh,
right?
like season 2 Game of Thrones type thing?
Right. Yeah, we had similar things in high school. College, it was actually pretty tame because we had Thursday, because it was must-see TV, which was like Seinfeld, Friends, ER. I think the girls would watch Party of Five. Like it was a whole thing of like all these shows. Mad About You. Like
roll through the titles, man.
yeah, it was all the same night.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
I think
so the
Mad About
TV
You-
party died when streaming started.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So with TV Party, they mentioned a bunch of TV shows. I'm going to list them. You're going to tell me whether or not you've even heard of them or have watched them.
This is the Carl is 12 years younger than Dan show. Here we go.
That is true. Because there's only one show on here that I did not know.
Okay.
So That's Incredible.
Nope.
Okay. That's Incredible was essentially like like Ripley's Believe It or Not, but way more accessible.
Okay.
Basically.
I'm familiar with Ripley's.
Yep. Hill Street Blues,
No.
a police procedural. And I rarely ever watched it, but my mom would watch it because like it was like on a school night or something, and I'd be in bed, and Hill Street Blues has a really cool theme song, and like in the summers I could hear it like in my bedroom. We should do an episode or do some content on like the best TV theme songs.
Oh man, you know I'm in.
Yeah.
You know I'm in.
Yep. Dallas.
Yep.
Okay, you know that one. Did you ever see it?
Yep.
Okay. Fridays.
Fridays plural?
Yep.
No, I've seen the movie Friday.
Good movie. No, it was an attempt to recreate Saturday Night Live on Friday. I think sort of a sketch comedy thing. Yeah. Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
Yep. The Jeffersons.
Yep.
Talk about an awesome theme song.
Moving on.
Great. And Vegas.
Yep.
Right. Oh, so you
And don't forget Monday Night Football.
Oh, Monday Night Football, of course. I suppose that's a TV show.
I'm really good at that one.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you are.
Yeah. I heard of most of it. The first few, no, not at all.
Yeah.
So Fridays was an attempt to do Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, that's my recollection of it at least.
So Friday for me was the best in the prime and only time that the real true channel of Nickelodeon lived. Was you had all of their good fake Saturday Night Live, which was all that.
Yep.
But you had a bunch of fun content in there, and also TGIF during the upbring of the 90s was so dope. So that's where you could catch like Step by Step and Family Matters. Like there was like 4 good ones in a row.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you mentioned earlier, but you were in college. And those were later. I remember those shows. TGIF was a big thing. Like Friday nights for us were holy, you know?
Yeah.
There was like, you get like the pizza. It was like stuffed crust pizza and then like the Blockbuster. Yeah. But you rolled through TGIF and you dropped the Blockbuster video in afterwards.
Yeah. All TV parties.
Oh, it was a TV party.
It was a thing.
Jeez, I thought we were going to blow through the front half of this album. No, sir. TV party has done it for us.
Yeah.
We must move on. All right. So getting into song number 6, Thirsty and Miserable.
The title explains itself.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to think very hard. It's 3 verses and 3 choruses of the story of being afraid to run out of liquor, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. And what's interesting to me about this one is the guitar parts closer to a metal song.
Yeah.
Yeah, which all of a sudden identified as an obscure reference to the song Fits Like a Glove by Kiss.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It also has like Seek and Destroy-ish type parts in the middle.
A bit, yeah. It's I'm just curious. There are a couple songs on here. We can't take forever on this album, but that make me think of other things in 2 different directions, and we'll get to that in a minute. But there's no way I can't imagine that Kiss is like, oh, I'm going to do Thirsty and Miserable when they recorded. I think it's on Lick It Up.
Yep.
Is when that
before the face paint.
It was after the face paint.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they took off their face paint in 1983.
Oh, they took it off. Got it.
Yep.
See, you're the Kiss aficionado.
I know way too much.
My favorite band, Kiss.
At least they were for a good 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this tune, I mean, not groundbreaking on the album, fits the cue perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe this is them spilling the beans as to what a lot of the depression later in the album is about. Because there's a lot of talk about obtaining things and they never specify why. Though there is a good heroin song later. There clearly. But we'll touch that when we get there.
You know who writes good heroin songs is Alice in Chains.
Yeah. Oh my God, the best heroin songs. Ooh, I'm positive we'll talk about those down the line.
Is that a playlist?
It has to be good heroin songs, guys. Dan's going to create the AI that creates our good heroin songs playlist.
Oh God.
If you have any suggestions for the good heroin songs playlist, you can hit us on our Instagram at
Backwards Eats Podcast.
or our Gmail.
Backwards Eats Podcast at gmail.com. And
that's
also, we're now on Blue Sky.
Whoa, good for us.
As of yesterday.
Hey, you can what do we do? You don't tweet. You can fly us.
I don't know what you call it. It's kind of weird. We're only backwards beats there. They didn't have enough characters to
Fair
do
enough.
that.
So on Blue Sky, backwards beats.
Yep. I want to belabor this. We're also on Threads. And I think what I want to try to do here is, we aren't getting a lot of email engagement, but I think I want to start having like different conversation types on those platforms if you all are down with it. So we don't really have any followers on Threads or Blue Sky yet because basically just started doing it there. But
This would be a fun way to start.
Yeah, if you want to chat about stuff, I think I might put some content out there that's more just conversational.
A teeny opinion is all we need.
Yep.
Because you've learned. We'll talk. Next song, Police Story.
What's this about?
I have no clue, bro. This is the quintessential we hate cops, cops hate us punk story. This might be the genesis, actually, of it all. I can't think of an earlier reference I know of that like pushes this theme out.
Yeah, there are certainly bands that had police problems.
But like every like hardcore punky type band I've ever heard of since I was a kid and listened to has always been like, yeah, the cops, and then it rolls into hip hop, obviously.
Yep.
But this 1980, 81, they literally say we're at war. They don't give a shit about us. Those are their words.
Yeah. I mean, they were pretty confrontational in their concerts and started lots of problems. I can see why the police might not be down with it.
Sure. And on the other hand, they claim in this song that the police hit them in the head with billy clubs.
I'm sure they did.
So, like, this is where it starts going down. It was not Rage Against the Machine, guys. It was like, here you are. Right.
This is, this is not parent music,
as one would say. Police Story is funny because it starts off with a pretty good. You mentioned the guitar not rolling a lot of effects. Man, that's a heck of a slide, a glissando up the neck if he's getting that fake police siren sound initially.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's just there's maybe a pedal involved in that, or maybe it's just.
Well, you and I just came off the Miami record where it seemed like every artist had the whammy pedal on their board.
Right.
And we're spiking octaves. For those who don't know what we're talking about, guitars emulating police sirens. It's not, the most dead on you'll ever hear, but it starts off with it and it creates the power and the message, and they really use it as a ramp. This is a top song on this album for me. Not but
Yeah, it's a good one. And we've definitely had plenty of bands that have had police problems. You talked about Rage Against the Machine. They definitely had some.
I think NWA may have had a little issue.
Well, there's actually a fun story about NWA that I heard with Ice Cube talking about. They have their favorite song that says called what? Love the Police, I think it is.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. No, it's called Fuck the Police. And so they're playing that song, and I, as the story goes, I tried to find the clip that I saw of it, but I didn't try that hard. Apparently, the police are like standing on the side of the stage during that song, and they're all freaking out. And so they basically bolt to escape the cops, and come to find out the cops just wanted their autographs.
Oof.
They were like, it was like, yeah.
The irony.
Yeah.
On both sides.
On both sides, yeah. It's kind of funny, but yeah. I think we talked about the Doors, obviously, with the Stooges, and whether or not maybe Jim Morrison may have been one of the first punk artists, at least with this ethos, urinating on the crowds.
Yeah, sure. Getting in plenty of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something different than doing it versus saying it.
Yeah.
Because the second you say it in your art, and it's going out like a flyer at that point. It's mass produced.
Yeah.
Doing it at your concert, to me, don't get me wrong, you might have the will to have that, but that's a concert then was how many people?
Oh, 200, 300,
It's momentary.
500. Yeah.
There's this crowd. They caught it, and it becomes legendary. And you know, maybe sometimes bolstered.
Yeah.
Like no one's ever going to down tell a story,
Right.
from the rock show.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying they didn't, but to come out and write police story and literally say we're at war with these cops is a bold statement, and it pretty much like cements Black Flag's position in here's where we stand. In fact, up until now, we're at song 7, right? Mm-hmm. It feels like songs 1 through 7 have been telling you about who they are, who their generation are, what their movement is, what they feel and don't feel. And they've been very open about the they. Right?
Yeah, I would agree.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm really setting this up.
Yep, I can tell.
Very good. And then we hit over to Gimme, Gimme, Gimme.
So this is a strange song in a few ways.
How so, Daniel?
Well, all right. Starts off a cappella with a regular upbeat tempo.
I thought it was cool. It's kind of like an acapella over drums. Gimme,
Yep.
gimme, gimme. Yeah.
And then Henry decides to then count them in at a much slower tempo, which they don't take, but they take a slower tempo, but not his tempo.
It's wild. Yeah. It's actually a 3-tempo play.
Yeah. And so I've got to imagine, obviously their playing slower is intentional. And I've got to imagine Henry Rollins is counting in and it always shocks me the amount of musicians who don't know what the count in signifies.
So, fun fact, Carl did some research. He overdubbed a ton of these tunes.
Did he?
So that might explain a little bit of the disconnection here. However, there's no excuse for or unless they really intended it, which something tells me they may not.
Yeah.
But this tom-tom driven groove into the band actually falling. It might be like Greggy G was like, no, take it down like 20 bips.
I think the two different things are supposed to be different tempos.
So his plug hit funny.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. Like I said, it surprises me the amount of musicians who don't know what a count in actually does. They just think it's when it's time to start.
Exactly. It's like, no. You're setting the beat.
Right.
Oh, it's great.
Blows my mind. And people who actually are decent musicians who like, all right, count us in. I count them in. I'm like, why aren't you at my tempo? I gave you a tempo. It's like, oh, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, I could count to 23 then. Like the 1, 2, 3, 4 means something, dude. You know?
I taught in these music schools forever. And yeah, I mean, this was a problem with 7-year-olds, but man, like,
Are you a rusher or are you a dragger?
oh, tong. Yeah, with adults, it's incredible to me as well.
Yeah.
This is where the album changes for me, Daniel.
Okay.
The arc has changed. Everything has been about defining them, though he says me plenty and I, but you're describing like things that happen to I.
Yeah.
At Gimme, he needs his fix.
Yes, this is about indulgence.
And we begin to spiral into mania, into depression, into suicidal thoughts, into everything that comes our way. And it's a breaking point. In fact, after Gimme, what happens? It's the turn of the album, right?
Yeah, because
on the vinyl.
we go into yes, yeah.
So like physically after this song, it changes. Yeah. More after this. Tonight on TV Party, 8 p.m.
We watch TV.
and at 9 p.m.,
We have a couple of brews.
10 p.m.,
Somebody falls through a table.
and at 11 p.m.
A rebroadcast of the scrambled signal from the Playboy channel.
But first, it's Name That Smell. Johnny returns after last week's triumph and faces some truly rotten scents. Here are some highlights from last week's episode.
First up on Name That Smell, his roommate Spud's beer mud soaked bed sheet.
What the bloody... Is that a diaper? Nah, I think it smells like the shit that spews out of this bloody TV channel 24/7.
Next, last Saturday's pizza box with the cigarette butts and a used prophylactic.
Oh, what the hell? Smells like pizza and rubber. Oh, I know. It's your mom's perfume. She says hi, by the way.
Not cool. What about the dead mouse in a toilet tank in the upper deck last night?
Oh, Christ and a cracker.
5 seconds remaining.
Oh, that's easy. It's a dead mouse soaked in a dirty toilet water. Give me that thing.
Tune in to Name That Smell and find out. Well, I couldn't think of a better thing to do with my weekend if I had 3 of those.
Absolutely not. I think that'd be at least my third best weekend.
Oh, man. After this past weekend or counting this past weekend?
Counting this past weekend.
Very good. All right, because I had a great time this past weekend. Welcome back to Backwards Beats Podcast. So we're smack dab in the middle of Black Flag's album Damaged. And this is where I've been kind of yelling at you. There's an arc. This is a concept album, and this thing is now peaked at top of I can be in a punk band in the streets and an semi-operable human in society, and I am no longer going to be that person now.
No, because we start off with depression.
Literally, a song called Depression.
Yeah.
We don't take this topic lightly, by the way, if you listen to any of our other media, but we are going to call it what it is. If you read the words to the entire album, you'll see what we're talking about. There's no other way to talk about this piece of art without just calling it what it is. So please, if you have issues with this, maybe catch us next week. In the meantime, we might say some quotes that he says. We will talk about some themes that are probably pretty dark throughout the back half of this album because it's everywhere.
I mean, without spoiling too much, let's just go 3 titles in a row.
Go for it.
Right? We start at the top of the hill here at Depression. We go into room 13, which...
You can only assume.
Yep. And then we go straight to being damaged.
2.
2, yes. Not also, number 2.
The fact that there's more than one damage, though, should say something.
Yes, and I'll spoil the beans. One right here. Damage 2 is the countdown
To Damage 1.
to Damage 1. That's why they're in reverse order, I believe.
Yeah, so that's a hot take. I like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, bear with us.
Depression. Hey, the happiest part of this side.
There we are. Probably, honestly, if you look at this.
Yeah.
So this is where the album turns from we to me, right? As an artist, if you listen to the way he's addressing the microphone, it's just inner focused introspection and none of it happy.
Yeah. Freud would have you at ego.
Precisely, extreme and damage. Furthermore, it's every now and then met by this little bit of a will to live, but not much.
Yeah. Musically, we talked about this during the break. The intro chord reminds me of, so King's X does a cover of Manic Depression, the Jimi Hendrix song.
Hold on, King's X that had Eric Gales as a guitar player?
That I did not know until this past weekend.
Hey!
Yeah.
Shout out Eric Gales.
Yeah. So that was cool. I'm curious if they do that opening chord in homage to it, because they're certainly hip to this type of music. But the reason I wanted to bring up that song is not because it's called Manic Depression, even though there's certainly a relation and there's thematically some similar things that are going on to that song. But I had someone reach out to me after the Boyz II Men album, where we talked about fake crowd noise.
Oh, yeah.
And he sent me a message and he's like, yeah, good call on the fake crowd noise, as is in Manic Depression.
Oh,
There's fake
there
crowd
you go.
noise in it. So call back to episode, I believe that's number 6.
Well, or 495.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, fake crowd noise, Manic Depression. This song is nothing like Manic Depression, except you could draw parallels in some of the themes of the how much depression takes over everything.
Indeed. And the music starts to turn that way too.
Yeah.
We talked about major chords in music. We will hear some more, or in punk music. We will hear some more down the line. This is not that song.
Yeah. This is the first song on the album where they have a bit of, I'll call it a gimmick, where there's these 16th note drum fills that they drag.
Take it. And
Yeah.
then it picks back up.
Yeah. It's not as obvious in this one as it is in the next song, but it's odd that it's a trick that they do 2 times in a row. And I guess maybe it's, I don't know how intentional it is. I mean, it's definitely intentional because they repeat it. Or if there's any thinking behind, this is me just barely hanging on. And
Sure.
then,
It hasn't been a thing up until now, and now it becomes a thing. Introduced here,
Yep.
heavily introduced, or heavily played out in the next song, Room 13.
Yeah.
Room 13, you can only assume is the room he was assigned to when he checked himself in somewhere or was checked into somewhere.
It's. I don't think it's a happy place, Room 13.
No, Room 13 is not what he calls his bedroom at home. And this song is a cry for help on top of a cry for help. Some failures, and it's stalled out even, as you've said. It's
Yeah.
actually musically thrilling.
I agree.
Because instead of just like, I'm going to paint loud chords, speed, and yelling, you end up with this really big conversation of him kind of yelling and then the music communicating and the yelling and the music communicating. And it really feels like a tug of war.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, this is another one where the 16th note fill slows down, and it's a drum fill and guitar fill. Basically, it's a squealy noise on the guitar, but it's played in time together, and they slow down, and it almost feels like a car trying to start up. It's like,
But then like
Yeah.
like you ran out of gas.
yeah, which I think in this situation is certainly metaphorically probably accurate.
Yeah. If you're playing that game, which I'm very much in, I'm like, yeah, this is that album.
I mean, because Black Flag really become kind of an art band more than a punk band later on. They have a whole album, spoken word one side and instrumental the other side. Like
Yeah,
they explore the space.
yeah, this is an accidental is what we're getting
Yeah.
at. And there's a reason it's on this list and regarded as it is. I think we're not the only ones that think this.
And I think there's another part here where thematically, musically, there's a descending guitar part. And lyrically, the line is, "I need to hang on," right? That's one of the lyrics that go on that happen during this descending guitar part. And eventually, the bottom just falls out, and the guitar just crashes. Clearly, he didn't hang on.
It's not for more than a moment, but
Yeah.
you're right, and it's like it messes up a cadence,
It does.
and intentionally so. And I think there's a message that they're trying to say here. They're showing you what desperation feels like, and I find this to be of the B side of the album, the second side of the album, one of the more interesting songs because of just the weight of it and the trade off of it.
Yeah.
It just feels very heave ho down the lane.
Yep. Yeah.
Anything else on that?
No, I'm going to save that reference that you teased me for another day.
That's fair.
There we go.
That's fair. You can have one later. We move on to song 11, believe it or not, but it's Damaged 2. Not Damaged 1, Damaged 2.
Yeah, and as I alluded to, I believe this is a countdown
I think that's such a good take, dude.
to a precursor to the finale of this album.
Yeah, Damaged 2 would strike me in the story of the main character or the persona here. Because whether it's Rollins or not, or the experience of everybody he's talking about, we don't really have insight on that. I'm sure one could deep dive, bug him, and piss him off and figure it out to some extent, but that's not what we do.
No.
With that said, in the storytelling of it all, it's definitely post Room 13, and it's like, I need to hang on, need to hang on was kind of like the theme in 13, and now it's more just layering on self-abuse.
Yeah. There's musically, again, I'll talk a little bit more music. There's an introduction guitar riff that said it reminds you of something, but you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
I think it's Communication Breakdown by Led Zeppelin.
Ooh, that's a good take. Look, the guitar playing in this song, out of everything in the album, is my favorite. Don't call this noise guitar, y'all. Please. I've read things where there's like, ideal noise guitar. This is just insanely cool guitar playing.
Yeah. There's plenty of noise that happens, but it's not because he can't play his instrument.
Yeah, it wasn't because he just jammed his fingers on frets and got this. If I could jam my fingers on frets and get that, I'd be elated, right? Like, this is so cool. The amount of structure he has in order to play within what feels like chaos and get these sounds. It's really, really admirable. And he's not smashing 5 pedals on a board to get there. He's not elevating. It's just down the middle. I'm going to go here now.
Yeah, I'm playing punk. I'm going to crash into a wall and get back up and play some more punk.
And then probably hit another wall.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to listen to. If you're a guitar player, I really, really suggest you put your ear on this one. You might think I'm crazy, but I'm not looking for juicy tones. I'm looking for really wild ideas. Check these out.
Yeah. So riff-wise, we have that sort of Communication Breakdown, potentially inspired riff.
Yep.
And then it switches, it sort of turns around, and it reminds me, now, the album came out the same year, but it reminds me of the song Livewire by Motley Crue.
Okay.
It's a very similar riff.
So
Actually, played more precisely by Mick Mars, but
well, so interesting you say that, right? Because like there's ideas of the time, right? Everybody's going out and having beers at the same clubs, listening to a lot of the same music. Whether or not you're writing the same music or participating, it's ringing through your ears, right?
yeah.
And so you might get 2 takes of a similar idea. We get it all the time nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And you certainly got it throughout the 90s.
I mean, it's just interesting. Motley Crue being a quintessential like LA band.
The
Right.
proximity's there.
The proximity's there. Could be coincidence. I mean, it's not the Livewire riff. Great riff. This is a great riff. But it's not like it's changed the world. I mean, I guess for Motley Crue, it's put them on the map. Like that's a banger of an opener.
I was saying, you got punk, but you also have hardcore.
Yeah.
These guys play in both fields.
Yep.
No one's calling Motley Crue hardcore, but it's adjacent to some rock style that might kiss hardcore eventually. Like, they're all in the same swimming pool.
Yeah, that's actually probably one of their most metal songs. Has double bass and all that sort of thing for their opening. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard it.
Cool.
That's in my opinion, my podcast.
My opinion, my podcast. Suck it. We're done.
Yeah.
No, great tune, actually. Damage 2 for me on the back end might be my fave. We move into No More.
This is intense.
Well, it doesn't start off like the rest of them.
No, it's a Celerando.
Over the course of like a minute?
Yeah, how long is this song
I
total?
mean, the whole song is 2 minutes 25. I'm pretty sure for 1 minute of it, it's just the bass and a floor tom hitting together.
Yeah, from a very slow pace going all the way up to pretty frantic.
Props to Robo on the single hand roll.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's one of the darkest parts of this album, as if it hasn't been dark for several songs.
Yeah.
We just keep going deeper. If you really want to hear what we're talking about, take a break for a sec and just dial into, I'd say, Depression through No More. 9 to 12. Those tracks, you won't feel very good. You'll spend about 10 minutes, 11 minutes of your life. I hope you're not doing this on your way into like work, but listen to these songs, or at least scroll through a few seconds of each. You will get the feeling of what we're saying. They've plunged into horrid darkness at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Sidebar, have you ever listened to the album Billion Dollar Babies by Alice Cooper?
No.
So I recommend it. I hope it's on this list. But there's a song in there called Unfinished Suite, which just starts with a pulsing bass. Even though this speeds up, for some reason, it brings me there. And Unfinished Suite happens to have sound effects because there's like a dentist drill.
Oof.
Yeah.
In
the song, yeah.
Do they spell sweet S-W-E-E-T?
Yeah. Yep. Yes, it is Unfinished Suite. It's
Oh, seriously?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the dentist drill is real. Yeah.
Oh, no.
But yeah, for some reason, I hadn't made that connection to listening to this, over the past week. But fun little thing.
Ugh, that's not fun at all. See, this is how dark we've gotten. Dan's talking about dentist drills. Anything stick out to you besides the intro of No More?
More major key anger.
Yeah, that's so funny, right? So they're playing major chords over absolute, sad boy lyrics.
Yeah.
And this to me, it's the last time in the album he's pleading for anything. There's an attempt to rescue himself. We got 3 songs to go, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't get much cooler than here, because next song is called Padded Cell.
It does. And basically there's a lot of screaming of maniacs. You are.
Well, the whole band screams maniac, over and over again.
Yeah.
It's the first time we've heard the whole band scream anything since the delightful and light version of TV Party, guys.
What has happened? Yeah.
I know. We've devolved. This went from the worst you could do is throw a rock through my window.
Right.
To you would nuke a town if you had the option to.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some lyrics in here that, to me, this song actually, obviously you're in some sort of padded cell, but this one could also just be a metaphor for fear of life. And what I mean by that is the lyrics are, Earth's a padded cell, defanged and declawed. I'm living in hell. It's a paradise fraud. Straitjacket minds in line to be old, telling me to let time slip through my teeth.
Yeah.
So while this may not necessarily be as padded cell as you might think,
in a literal sense.
Yes, life is a
he
padded
hasn't
cell.
checked himself in or been sent to one.
Yeah, I feel like this represents more of that fear of working until you die without ever living.
Yes, indeed.
right? Having the creativity like beat out of you as a child, all the things that tend to happen even with the best of intentions.
And with the best support system.
Yeah. So to me, I get more of that out of this song.
No question
But,
about it.
yeah.
And so, there's a double entendre kind of riding the entire way here, right?
Yeah.
And so you can see things like depression, room 13, which implies some sort of hospitalization, right? You walk out, you're damaged too, right? No more. I want no more of this. Boom, padded cell, right? And you think you're seeing one progression. At the same point in time, you might just be watching a kid in his room
Right.
at home with air conditioning and a dinner provided.
Yeah. I mean, this padded cell very well could be after literally being in a padded cell, now being out in the world, giving it another shot, and still feeling like you're in a padded cell.
Totally. Or it could be, I never went to one,
Yep.
and I just view the constraints around me as that.
Yeah.
It's a hefty thought. And, these folks didn't have the internet to sit around and bitch on Reddit. And it's
Thank goodness.
to be alone. I mean,
Actually.
Or maybe that would have been the outlet one needed. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm thinking more doom scrolling, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, we all doom scroll. Now they just caught us in our own little weird trap. Mm-hmm. Oh man, this episode's gone so different than I thought. I'm so happy. All right, cool. So we'll move joyously over to the song "Life of Pain."
Let's do it.
Song number 14 of 15, and it weighs in at a hot 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
But this has a really awesome, like off-kilter guitar intro, ascending like tritone.
Musically, this song's dope as hell, dude.
Yeah.
But here's something new. It's no longer about Henry.
Not really.
It's not about his misery. In fact, he's speaking about the downfall of someone else, it seems. It may be a she. It may be a companion. It may be somebody he cares very heavily about.
Yep.
This is that heroin song I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. I mean, what's the first line? It's like, look at your arms, or look what you've done to your arms.
Look what you've done to your arms. Yeah. And I mean, of the time, you kind of figure it out from there. And the idea of someone in such a state as we've heard of through, this entire album, and now it's pointed at somebody else.
Yeah.
Especially this late in the album. I mean, this is the second to last tune, is kind of redeeming and special.
Yeah. It's funny because we didn't talk about this, but this kind of reminds me, because of obviously the heroin theme, have you ever seen the movie Requiem for a Dream?
Yep.
That's a really uplifting heroin movie.
That's
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, literally, dude needs to get his arm cut off.
That 4-shot at the end where you're watching
everyone devolve.
everyone take their worst moment, essentially.
Yeah.
Is broken.
It is. Fantastic film. Not uplifting at all. Make sure you're in a good headspace going in.
Don't bring your kids.
Not safe for work. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, Life of Pain, it's the only look outside of the persona of this band we've ever seen on this album.
Yeah. One of the lines that's interesting here, phrases, is, life miseries, pain runs deep. Does it matter that anyone cares? Can't there be another outlet? Nobody gets close, nobody dares.
Well, there you go. I mean, nobody's close, nobody dares, which is so funny because it's clearly not about him.
Yeah.
And so it's like we had this little like flash in the pan, and right at that line, it's like he's swearing off talking outside anymore.
Yeah. But I still think it fits thematically. If you walk through potentially a progression, of obviously we're turning this whole thing into a concept album, but if you think about people who go through issues like this, right? Sometimes their support system is completely broken. That's why I brought up Wrecking for a Dream,
Sure.
right? The codependency between, who's the actor? Jared Leto, right? And Jennifer Connelly, their characters, 'cause I don't know, right? Their codependency, they're terrible for each other. They have great love for each other, but terrible for each other. And they're literally killing each other in many ways, right? As they go through this. The same sort of story in the song.
Yeah.
And if you got to think, if you're going through a progression from depression to Room 13 to Damage 2, like this whole thing, and then maybe it's like, all right, I'm out and about and everything's still a mess, and now you're a mess, and I'm projecting everything that has been bad about me on you and your problems.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm kind of with you here. Yes, it's definitely outside, but it comes back.
Yeah, it does. It's not without me at the end.
Yeah.
Which brings us finally to Damaged 1.
Whew.
This starts off sounding like an AA meeting.
Yes.
Literally, he says, "Hi, I'm Henry."
Yeah.
And then it's a rant?
Yeah, I mean, this was based off of his improvisations. This is the first song where he actually has a writing credit on the album.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's based off his live improvisations. When I used to listen to this song when I was a kid, I hated this song. This might be my favorite song on the album.
Really?
Yeah.
Hot take?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it took me a long time, and I remember just, I don't know, probably because it's so dark. It's awful.
It's really a tough listen, y'all.
Yeah. And Henry Rollins sounds like he's gargling glass in this thing.
Oh, he's miserable.
Yeah.
He's miserable. And I'll tell you what, it's the most tonality he has.
Yeah.
Because it's like, a talk to scream to yell to mumble to talk type of way. And that's how they end the album.
With this very uncomfortable angular like chord progression that's just...
It's not cool.
Yeah.
But it fits perfectly.
It is. Yeah. I don't have much more to say, but...
Guys, when I think punk music, what I don't think is horrid self-loathing.
No.
But Black Flag seemed to really check the box.
Yeah, I agree. It's I don't think I got it as much when I was listening to punk many years ago. I guess probably because I wasn't as angry as it was required, right? To think about this type of stuff. Stuff I've obviously talked about Dead Kennedys 500 times. And bands like Fugazi, where it's more outward. I'm just angry with the establishment and everything that's wrong and yada, yada, yada. Or even just some satire that comes with that stuff. And that certainly exists in some Black Flag songs as you move along. But this here is rough.
Yeah. I was happy to yell crap at concerts that was asinine as a kid because it was fun, right?
Yeah.
Even some dark stuff. But when you visit this one, it's not a fun listen towards the end.
Yeah.
However, I do think it's a meaningful listen. I think that there was things said throughout the course of this album and music played that was representative of it. I mean, they were in tandem. This was not a band playing one thing and Henry doing the other. I mean, the angst and anger and follow was there the entire time. And for that, I'm appreciative. That's a hard musical outfit and challenge. The band was in lockstep with this man.
Yeah. So to talk about how damaged he is, I don't even care about self-destruction anymore. What's the use?
Oh, God. And on that note,
da 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 da.
da.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, would you hit it? Does this song deserve its stature on this list?
Does this song or the album?
Or, I'm sorry, this album.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. All day. Though I will say this, and it's not a compliment, I think it deserves to be where it is on the list.
I agree. I think there are better Black Flag albums, and we've talked about this several times in this podcast. I understand more why they put this one on. We had some questions about some other albums already.
Well, sometimes they're Rolling Stone's prone to put an album on that they see as like a building block to a genre, right? But they fail to like hit like the hits too at the same time, and you have to negotiate.
Yeah,
this one really has a couple of bangers that they're well known for, albeit all of the big ones are in the first half.
Think about TV Party to Damaged
2 or 1.
Yeah,
Damaged 1. Jeez, it's nuclear, man.
Yeah.
But unlike Suicide, by Suicide, the album that we looked at third, for those who are just hearing this, I'm not trying to make it even darker.
Yeah.
This truly has groundwork. I hear this album in so much music that I later absorbed.
Yeah.
I did not hear that in Suicide's album. Here I can see where it came from, and it was bold, and you could tell they're pretty much the only ones really doing it.
Yeah, we didn't have to spend 20 minutes talking about baking soda in this episode.
No, we spent 1 hour and 20 minutes talking about Black Flag on a 35-minute album. And worth it, honestly, because think about all of the conversation it brings up.
Yeah.
Mental health's a big deal.
It is.
This is an album that really, really leans into it. Not in a positive way.
No, it doesn't. But I still believe that there's some value in the catharsis of what comes out of it if you can handle that.
Absolutely. And frankly, I mean, there was no filter. So, like, if you can handle that, it's almost irrelevant. Because in 1982, if you went to go catch them touring on this thing, no one cared.
No,
You
not
slept
really.
out with your friends and went.
Yep.
And you took these words to the face, and you took the people who were there who already knew the words to the face as well. And this is what created the genre, guys.
Yeah, I really did.
Respect.
Yep.
Oof. Well, chewy and fun take.
For sure.
Totally related. Next week, we have the pleasure of getting into a whole new album. What is it?
It's almost the same thing. This is the album Continuum by John Mayer.
Hooray! We look forward to talking to you then, long-windedly and lovingly. This is Carl Carter Fansteel.
This is Dan Woodard.
Signing off. We'll catch you next week.
That was a show about the album Damaged by the band Black Flag. From Rise Above to Damaged, it's a descent into madness.
Backwards Beats Podcast is a Tuna-Wood production recorded live at Thought Shack Studios in Halethorpe, Maryland.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us at Backwards Beats Podcast on most platforms.
Share the love, and we'll see you next week for another deep dive into the next album on Rolling Stone Magazine's Top 500 list. Until then, salt your melons.